Sauron sees himself as master of all Middle-earth.
Welcome to San Diego Comic-Con 2024. I am here with the cast of Lord of the Rings, The Ring of Power. Let me just say, when I first watched this show, I was absolutely blown away of how they were able to get that scope of Lord of the Rings from the cinema to a show. It is absolutely incredible. Now, coming into season 2, what lessons did you learn from the first season that you wanted to bring with your characters in season 2?
Well, I think the most exciting thing, certainly for myself and Charlie, because we spend a lot of screen time together in this season, we both knew where our stories were headed because it's Tolkien and it's lore, and so we knew the tale we were going to tell. So in terms of lessons learned, I'm not sure about that, but in terms of where we were headed, we were both feeling very secure and happy about that.
Charlie?
Yeah, I think there's twofold, because there's things as the character, but also things as the actor, and I found it a really exciting season because I'd had this experience in New Zealand, beautiful New Zealand, where we filmed the show, and I'd gotten used to the scope and the scale of, like you say, of what we were doing. So it was kind of nice to rock up at the start of season 2 and be like, yeah, I know where this sits now, and you learn so much from being a character for however long it had been. It had been a good couple of years. I'd had this character going around in my mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I know that you're coming into season 2. What did you take from Joseph's performance that you wanted to apply to your own? How do you make the role your own in season 2?
Well, I had a lot of conversations with JD and Patrick before we started about how we wanted to approach that, and luckily I really enjoyed what Joseph did in the first season, and Adar was probably my favorite character. No offense to anybody else, so it's actually a pleasure to kind of take the mantle and carry on from there. We don't look alike, but it's very clearly the same character, so I don't think it's not a big problem for an audience. And yes, we wanted to make it kind of as relatively seamless as possible. And there's Adar has a lot to do in this season, so it was kind of straight out of the blogs and into it.
Charlie, your character goes full heel turn at the end of season 1. Spoiler alert here.
If you haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen it, I was kind of shocked. Not gonna lie, it got me. Like you guys pulled one over and got me.
That's good.
How would you justify Sauron's actions internally, and how do you approach that aspect of his character this season?
I think it has to have a psychological through line, right? From the first season to the second season, he has to be focused on what he's doing, which is trying to heal and unite Middle-earth.
Sure.
So everything that I do, the difference in physicality, the difference vocally, it all comes back to working towards that purpose, right? Stitching the two seasons together, and old Celebrimbor down the end there just gets caught up in the web.
Charles, Celebrimbor, he ends in a very unique place in season 1, having helped craft a weapon that could really damage the world. What real life inspiration, if any, did you have in mind while playing the character this season?
I think what was most helpful to me was looking at characters from drama who had been in very domestically kind of abusive relationships, because the way we play it out, the way the story plays out, it's just two guys in a room.
Right.
They're working on big things, but it's essentially a working relationship, a power play between two characters. There's kind of almost little domestic moments within that relationship. There's bickering, there's bullying, there's torment, and there's trauma. All the big things.
That's great.
That turn up in these kind of very codependent, gaslighting kind of relationships. So all the great sort of heroes from drama that have portrayed those kind of relationships were very much an inspiration.
Sam, what can you tease about your character in season 2, and exploring the character in season 2?
Oh, that's a difficult question. What can I tease about it? Well, Adar at the end of season 1 has succeeded really in what he set out to do, which was to create a home for the Uruk. And now his work really is done, but he has this kind of nagging feeling really from, I think it was episode 6 of season 1, where he meets Halbrand and gets this feeling of recognition, but he doesn't know what that is. And then he's going to see Halbrand again in the beginning of season 2. and the seed of Sauron's return is planted, and that just changes everything. So yeah,
Absolutely. Now, your character, Charlie, in the first season is a physical warrior. He's a badass dude. He knows how to handle himself. But in season 2, I feel like we're getting more towards like this. It's almost like playing mental games with the other characters. Can you talk about the different approach to your character this season in that way?
Yeah, I think we see another side of Sauron, right? And it's probably the side that he's most notorious for, right? When I was a Lord of the Rings fan before this show, I thought of Sauron not as a warrior, but more of someone like a warrior of the mind.
Sure.
And he kind of manipulates and it works his way through the season, toying with people really, and bending them to his will. So I guess we're seeing the true Sauron, but that's not to say that he's given up his sword forever. But that's not a spoiler.
Not a spoiler. There's a great line that I loved in season 1. I'm going to paraphrase it because I'll butcher it I'm paraphrasing it. The giant says something along the lines of, a journey is for an individual, an adventure is shared with friends. With your guys exploring this show and being on these massive sets in New Zealand, can you talk about the adventure of being on this show and working with each other?
Yeah, I think Charlie and I were talking about this before. I think it was very unique in that when we started filming this show in New Zealand, the circumstances around it meant that we all became really close friends, which I think is a pretty rare thing for shows like this, for the whole cast to know each other so well. And I think it's because we were on this massive adventure on the other side of the world. And when we returned to film the second season in the UK, we kind of arrived with these relationships that we'd already formed, which was... it makes the show extra special.
Yeah, it's been that experience was an amazing grounding for the whole cast, because you're not only filming when you're away from home, you're filming every day, but also you spend all your social time together. Sure. If you're there in a group in a country far away from home, so all that was in place, ready for season 2.
That's incredible. Now, I've seen the first 3 episodes of season 2. Can you tease your favorite moment from those first 3 episodes?
I think my favorite episode, my favorite moment from those first 3 episodes would be, I really enjoyed a scene where, a sort of prison cell scene between Charlie and I. It's mind games central.
That's a cool scene because you're seeing 2 people that have had this relationship for thousands of years talking to each other. And it's like, there's a lot going on the surface, but then beneath the surface, it's like, what are they thinking? Which is cool. Thinking? I mean, my one, that's one of the first things that came to mind for me, but also there's a scene in episode 2, I think, when Sauron and Celebrimbor meet each other again for the first time, and things unfold.
Mine was going to be the moment, I think it's at the end of episode 1, when he turns up at the gates and my assistant brings me out to see who it is, and seeing him there, because that's where the story kicks off again. That was a great moment for me.
Is that the bit with the umbrella?
No, that's later.
There's a great scene in the pouring
Charlie
rain.
loves my umbrella.
Where Celebrimbor has the elves can do everything except make a good umbrella. It's the worst umbrella.
You'll see what we mean.
Soaking wet.
Now, the last question I have for you, Lord of the Rings is such an iconic franchise, shared from generation to generation. What was your favorite Lord of the Rings movie?
Well, look, mine was going back before Peter Jackson. The equivalent of my Peter Jackson obsession was an obsession with the 1978, I think that's the right date, animated Ralph Bakshi cartoon, which I was totally obsessed with. Obsessed to the point of making a play out of it. I wrote a script from this movie, and I never put it on at school, but that was
West End.
Yeah.
Broadway.
Well, that's going to be the next table read, I feel like, for your cast, right? His script.
But yeah, that was my, and reading The Hobbit and it almost, I would say, it made me interested in wanting to become an actor as well, other than what I already felt, because of the extraordinary range of characters and possibilities in those worlds. So it was magical for me.
How about for you, Sam?
Yeah, well, I was going to agree with Charlie about a lot of that. I think, in answer to your question, I think the first film was my favorite, but The Hobbit was what got me when I was a kid, and I think I must have read it 5 times. And yeah, the complexity of the world that he creates, and you know, it's not often that someone spends their entire life building a world like that. It's just so complex and amazing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Fellowship of the film, like the film's definitely Fellowship of the Ring would be my favorite. But The Two Towers gets a special mention because of the PlayStation game, the PS2 game. Took a lot of time.
Yeah,
My
guys.
childhood.
I'm still just working on beating it.
Yeah.
No. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining us. The show's phenomenal, and the scope of the show's breathtaking. But man, I love it. So thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
man.
much.
Thank so
Appreciate you.
You will give me the 9.